If I told you there was a tool so useful, so functional, and so versatile that it could take the place of 10 of these, it would have to cost an arm and a leg, right? Nope. Here's what you'll need. A small sheet of melamine. A 12-inch length of dowel. It should be 3/8 of an inch or larger, but otherwise the diameter doesn't really matter. You'll also need a drill bit that matches the size of the dowel. A couple scraps of wood. Plywood is best, but anything will do. And a few screws. Let's start with the base. Melamine is the best material for the job because it's glue resistant. It's also relatively cheap, stays flat, and if glue does get on it, you can easily scrape it off with a chisel. See? As for size, think about the longest panels that you'll want to glue together. For me, that's about 24 inches long. But you can make this 8 feet long from a 4x8 sheet if you want. You just need to think about how you'll store it and use it. Now, the width involves a bit of math. Start with the max width of the panels you'll likely make. Then add the width of the back cleat, then at least 3 inches more. I want to glue up 18-inch wide pieces, so 18 plus 2 plus 3, I'm going to rip my melamine at 23 inches. Instead of using a blade specifically for melamine, which would be best, I'll just add a little bit of blue tape on the surface to reduce any chip out. Chip out is when the top layer splinters and creates a rough edge. The trick to the clamping panel is the grid of holes that accept the dowels. I'm going to mark a few rows of these holes. You'll see in a moment, though, that it doesn't actually matter how many rows you have. I spaced the holes 3 inches apart, starting 2 inches from each edge. Blue tape helps with the chip out as I'm drilling, but also makes it easier to mark the center of the holes. Pencils must be made of glue or something because melamine seems to resist those too. Now all we have to do is drill out the holes we've marked with the right size drill bit. You're looking for a snug but not tight fit. So you can see here that I have a 3/8 inch Forstner bit, a 3/8 inch twist bit, and 25/64 twist bit. There's really a Goldilocks size here, and so I end up going with the Forstner bit. The idea for this jig isn't really new. I saw it buried in an old YouTube video I was watching about the best clamping techniques for woodworking. I know how to pick exciting videos. It was in my queue after the video on cleaning roof gutters. Once the holes are drilled, you can optionally route small roundovers or chamfers on both sides to protect the edges from crumbling. Just don't go too deep because you want to keep as much of the hole's vertical surface area for the dowels to bear against. Let's talk about the cleat. It's really straightforward, attached with screws. What matters is that the edge that faces the holes is as straight as possible. A hump or low spot in the middle will end up causing trouble later when clamping. Also, I'd use a piece of 3/4 inch thickness or thicker for the cleat. A really thin cleat could distribute the pressure unevenly on thicker panels, causing them to cup. Another piece of scrap becomes the wedges. Mark the same distance from 2 edges, then connect the lines. You can use a handsaw, a bandsaw, or, if you have them, bionic laser eyes to cut the pieces in half. The angle doesn't need to be perfect, so I won't tell anyone if you don't. Last step, cut 3 or 4 dowels to roughly 2 inches. So how do you use the panel? I'll dry fit this to show you how. Dry fitting is actually something I like to do before the main event anyway, so I don't come across any surprises later. I like to lay my panel into the jig against the cleat. Then I'll look for a row of holes that can fit a scrap of wood plus my wedges between the dowels and the panel. The scrap of wood between the wedges and the workpiece spreads the clamping force and protects the wedges from marring the edges of the work. Once everything looks good, spread glue on the seam, return the scraps of wood and the wedges to the party, and knock the wedges lightly. You should see a nice even bead of squeeze out. If you tighten it too much, you could cause your panel to cup upward. If it's too loose, you won't get an even bead of squeeze out. Just tap lightly on the wedges until you get an even bead. I just put it on the shop floor to dry overnight. The takeaway, you can DIY the most versatile clamp in your shop and it's not gonna cost a whole lot. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment below and let me know. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time on the Bike City Woodworks channel.